to the provisions of the East African Community Treaty establishes the East African Youth Council that is tasked with promoting youth involvement politically, socially, and economically of the region. And that is the baseline of this show. Welcome to Youth in Integration. I am Brian Ainaman, your host, and I'm much more honored to explore the dynamic effectiveness of integration of East Africa through the eyes of its stakeholders, the youth. Today I'm joined with a gentleman by the names of Nuwandinda, who is very good at economic and social political discussions among the youth, not only even to the youth, but also to everyone. Yes, Wilson, a short introduction of yourself, and then we continue.
Yes, thank you so much, Brian, for having me today. My name is Nuwandinda, like you said. I'm a researcher in international relations and diplomacy, and so much into youth involvement, specifically integration, but also in the day-to-day economic activities, having the youth involved from all the way from the grassroots in political, social, and economic affairs of the country and the region at large.
Wow.
I'm so happy to be here.
Okay. We want to dig deep in details what this integration is all about. We know our dear presidents from all the member states have had a discussion on to how integration can elevate the region and also put its sidings onto the map of the world. What is integration, or how can the viewers understand what integration is exactly?
Yeah, integration, in this case, the East African integration, East African community integration, this is the ongoing process by which countries in the East African community intend to come together to build a strong social, political, and economic community. This integration, it is being implemented through the East African community. Like you know, the East African community that was initially established in 1967, which later collapsed, unfortunately, 10 years later in 1977, but was later revived in 2000. So from 2000, here 24 years down the road, it has been there, but then the issue of integration has not been tackled to the fullest. So this is why we are coming together to make sure that we implement this thing, and mainly through the youth, because the youth constitute the largest number of the population of the East African community. So through this, we can make sure that the countries in the East African community integrate, come together to work for a common good, economically, politically, and socially, through the East African community.
So now then, what is the impact of integration of East Africa? How can it be of use to the region?
Of course, like they say, of course, when people come together, working together for a common good, like they literally say that two heads are better than one. In this case, however much we can develop independently as countries, but then when we come together, for example, we came to 8 countries actually. Last year, I think, when Somalia joined, we are 8 countries. So with 8 countries, when you sum up the GDP of the 8 countries, and then we come together to negotiate on the international market, to come, so it creates a stronger bargaining power on the international market in policies that can actually come to, you see, if a country like Kenya can go on the international scene and market itself, countries like Rwanda that actually invested heavily in marketing themselves, and Tanzania is also coming up, if they can go and negotiate for their own local policies in their countries, then now imagine what will happen if we come together as 8 countries. These superpowers will also now listen to us the most, because it is a body. We have the minerals. We have DRC, that is the richest country in the whole world as long as minerals are concerned. I bring now to you DRC, like we know there is a civil war there that is actually caused political and economic On the findings that people actually that are on the ground, they say that this war will not end until DRC is rooted up to zero, because it is actually rooting disguised in a civil war. The USA, they ship minerals, they are taking it. So I'm bringing this to you to show you what integration can do. If we are integrated and we create, for example, a strong security organ for the East African community. So now assume, yes, Uganda has sent troops in DRC, but then as you can know, we are still paying a debt to DRC because of routing. So even Uganda that went there disguised to create peace actually ended up routing. And now we are paying to DRC. Actually, is it every 9th of September? We pay very many million US dollars to DRC because of routing. This all happens because we do not have a strong organ. For example, to put Uganda to test, even before going to the ICC, to the ICJ, to penalize Uganda, if we are integrated and we have a common body that unites the whole 8 countries, then now we wouldn't expose ourselves to the international scene to do that. It will be like a home. For example, in the affairs of a home, if you before you expose how you have failed to manage your home or what, you first front the measures internally that are secretive. So also this gives power to these superpowers, be it USA, China, to also come and root, because we are not integrated, we are divided. A divided home will be, of course, the genesis of all conflicts and what. But if we are integrated, the main issue is having a strong bargaining power and the international scene, policies that can favor the East African community, because we very well know our problems more than the US. The US doesn't know us. We know our heritage, we know where we have come from, we know what we are fighting, and if we come together as one body, then we can actually compete favorably with these superpowers.
What are the challenges? What are the main challenges that are stopping deeper integration of the political integration of the region? Because talk of the wars that you've talked of in DRC, what are those main challenges?
The main challenges that have actually stopped integration, like you say, first of all, there is the unending civil wars in the region. Be it South Sudan. South Sudan is trying to stabilize actually, but still it is still going under some civil war. Then talk of DRC, you even talking of the northern Sudan, the Sudan actually, then South Sudan. So we have not been at peace, and where there is no peace, then integration cannot happen. So one of the major problems has been the civil wars, the unending civil wars in the region, and maybe some other issue. You see, in 1977, when the East African community collapsed, it collapsed mainly because Kenya was asking for more seats on the decision-making organs. More than Tanzania and Uganda. Initially, they were those 3 countries in the EAC. So now, the then presidents, that was His Excellency Julius Nyerere and Nuwandinda, they couldn't accept that. So because Kenya wanted to be the hegemony in the East African community, whereas others, the Nyereres and Amin, were saying, if it is a community, we don't care how big your country is, we all should have the same voice and the same bargaining power.
Yes.
So I'm bringing that to show you that this has also been a problem. We have a problem of fighting for hegemony power in the East African community. Like you heard the other day, we were saying they take President Museveni now to be the father of all presidents, and then integration cannot happen under such, because however much they call him the grandfather of what, but then we have countries that are better economically than Uganda. Talk of Kenya, talk of Tanzania, even Rwanda, you can put it there. So we have that problem on who will lead the integration, on who will
But
become.
then I thought that also in integration, one of its core pillars on which it stands, there is a neutral leadership that seeks to be gotten after that. So now if they call President Museveni the father, don't you think now it is the neutral leadership that integration is seeking for?
Then, of course, calling him the father actually, it in its sense violates the neutrality, even the sovereignty of countries.
Okay.
Because as long as you are the president, doesn't care whether you are the president of Uganda or I'm the president of Rwanda and my country is small, we all manage our affairs independently. So when we are coming together, these are countries coming. It doesn't matter how big the country is or what. I am the president of my people, and then we have come to integrate. So we should come to a common cause and a common agreement to agree on who will spearhead the integration, on who will become the first chairman, on who will do that. So we have discussed also of leadership. We have a leadership problem in the region. And if it is not corrected, then integration will continue to fail.
Well, the youth are the stakeholders of this integration, and well knowing that we constitute the largest percentage in the population, whether in Uganda, whether in Kenya, whether in Tanzania, we are saying that we are fronting youth because it is now our fight. We are no longer into the imagination of whether the youth are the leaders of tomorrow, but whether of today. Do you see anywhere where the youth come into this integration? What is the role of the youth in integration of East Africa?
Yeah, very good. Like you said, the last time I checked, the youth constitute up to 75% of the East African population.
That is the largest.
So big. But then when you make research actually in the independent countries, using the East African community, when you get those bodies, the youth are actually not involved. They are not even up to 8% of the people on board. So I think in the division of powers, as they say, the future belongs to the youth, or to this young generation. But then how will the future belong to the young generation when they are not trained from the grassroots and introduced to the knowledge of integration?
Yes.
Because when you move around the country, I can tell you, even we have people in universities that don't know what East African integration is.
They don't understand
they don't understand
integration is.
Or even if you try to explain, they take it as a myth, like something that will never happen.
Also a hindrance to the process of integration.
Yes, very much, because now the youth should be involved from the grassroots, so that they grow up knowing integration is. It is not of a surprise that I've actually gained interest in integration after reading about it and getting exposed to it and knowing what exactly can happen when we are integrated. Just recently, when I was in my second year at the university, so you can imagine now. Suppose I had gained that knowledge way back from high school, it would have been would be far, yes. So now this is what we are fighting for, to engage the youth from the grassroots, because they take up the largest number of the population. So now if we have the largest number of the population who don't understand what you claim to be fighting for and implementing it, then you are totally working for nothing.
Is it what the Generation Z is up to?
Yeah, that is what it is up to. Actually, of course, we cannot go without tackling these riots that have in Africa and even outside Africa, Kenya, Bangladesh, and so yes, they are coming up. It all zeroes back to sidelining of the youth. The youth have been left out in these decision-making bodies, and so when they feel that they are being left out, and then they are the largest number, it is an abuse to them, because they have now come up, they are educated, and they are seeing these old people taking up and making decisions on their behalf without even consulting them, as per democracy that we indulge in and these guys that we are promoting. So when you sideline the youth and reject intentionally to bring them, if there was a dialogue with the youth, we wouldn't be seeing these riots, because the youth they are very far from their leaders. there has been a very wide gap between the youth and their leaders. So they feel they have been neglected. There is unemployment at the highest peak. They are not involved. Education is becoming expensive. You invest a lot, go in the streets for 10 years, again go back to the village, and now you are on the same level with people that did not make it to the university. So all these.
But I've seen youth-led initiatives. Aren't those having fully 100% leadership of youth, or maybe they are initiatives fronting youth, but when into the details, they are not led by youth?
No, of course, for posterity and just for the case of what we have these bodies, National Youth Council, youth this, many bodies, but actually they have not made any impact. Absolutely nothing. Yes, because if they cannot come up to sensitize the youth, these youth agencies, all they want, maybe they get grants from the government, do this, hold directions. I already see the youth, they are erecting this, but then my question is, those elected, what do they do specifically? There is no impact. They have not impacted any number of youth to bring them on board. And actually, they should be the one bridging the gap between the young people and the people in power. But then if they have failed on their fundamental role, then maybe I can say they also need to be more sensitized and gain knowledge about the youth inclusion in this.
Now, DRC has joined, Somalia has joined, Burundi is into the East African community. And we have registered a lot of political instabilities in different regions, to say like Somalia, to say like the DRC Congo. How can East Africa community address political instability to provide at least a stable environment for integration to happen?
It is, of course, it is partly their role to make sure that these political instabilities go away for good. So we have to first to understand that the main cause of these civil wars actually, they are the Western powers, these superpowers. So for them, they believe in the divide and rule policy. So they partly invest in these civil wars because they know it is a threat. Integration is a threat to these superpowers, to the Western powers, because they are partly dominating us and controlling us indirectly, what we can call the neo-colonialism. It is partly, we say that we are independent and we celebrate independence every year, but then we are not independent. We are drowning in debts from these Chinese, from the IMF and World Bank, from this. So because they are partly, like I told you in DRC, we have evidence from credible sources that actually they partly sponsor the rebels there. They give them equipment, the machinery to continue fighting. Because a peaceful DRC is a threat to the West. Because it is the richest country, mineral-wise, in the whole world. So if there is integration, if there is peace, and they put these resources to use, then there will be no need of controlling them because they will be independent. So as long as they stay, they will never allow East African community to be independent. So what we can do is, if we are integrated, we can create like the community basket or a bank that where these countries can actually start with supporting. I can call it partial integration. We can start by supporting the least developed countries in the region.
That is in economic also.
Economic wise. You support them so that they are not left behind, and then we create a United Bank of East Africa, where member states can go to get loans at a lower interest, rather than running to the Exim Bank of China and World Bank. And you see, for them, they're actually not interested in you paying back their loans because they have a lot of money. They want to keep you in check. They know they are demanding you, and then they can control you because their interests multiply first, because even for Uganda, it will take hundreds of years to clear the loans the outstanding loans that we have. So if someone is demanding you all that amount of money, then you have no power in.
So that means that within the member states of East Africa, we are having differing economic levels.
Absolutely.
And that is a hindrance too.
Yeah,
So now, what are some of the strategies to address that issue so that member states can be at least at a neutral level of economic development?
Thank you. So, first of all, what can be done? You see these loans, like I've told you, loans from IMF, from World Bank, from what? For them, they don't ask for accountability. They give you $100 million. Of course, you have to give them a reason. I want to construct a certain road. They will not follow up to see how much you have used, how much a kilometer of road costs or what. But then, when we are integrated in a body, then we give out these loans, and we follow up to give accountability. They force accountability out of you. If you have said you want to construct a road, 100 kilometers of roads, and they have given you a certain amount of money, then the body will send its people to the ground to see, actually, have you constructed that road?
How they constructed?
How much was it worth? So this is why corruption levels are also at their highest peak, because they give these loans without accountability. Even no one follows them up.
You don't follow up.
Yes, someone eats whole kilometers of roads and they go unaccounted for. And then now they go back to ask for the loans. And for the Western community, that is their pride, giving you loans. Knowing the more they give you loans, the more they are controlling you.
And the more it is hard for you to pay back. And
the more it is hard for you to pay back. You heard the other day when there was contradicting news about the taking of Entebbe airport by China, is it? So these are the things that we should get, and this is what integration can really do. Because we have a lot of money in the region that we can actually start lending to these people. Other than going to the IMF, you go to the East African Community Bank and you get a loan that you will account for. So this is also helping a person from the grassroots, that way, because the road will be constructed, it will be accounted for. The economy will grow, and then more money. So then when we have reached that level, then now we are not under any pressure from the Western countries, and then we can now start refusing their policies that actually pinning us. For example, the homosexuality thing that is moving around,
the
LGBTQ plus what. So the other day I was still telling the youth that however much we have our cultural values and we don't support homosexuality, but then we should also accept the reality.
Which reality?
Someone that feeds you has to control you. So you can say, for us, we Africans, we hate LGBT, but they're the ones feeding you.
Oh, those are the loans that we are getting from outside.
Yes. They are the ones doing what? Feeding you. And these presidents can shout for fortnight, day in, day out, from down to dusk, but then they can never actually stop the homosexuality one. They will not.
Someone feeding
because
you?
They still need money. A number of NGOs withdrew from these refugee camps. Over 1,000 people lost their jobs because of this thing that had come up of homosexuality. We are drowning more and more in loans, and the economy is falling because of what? Because we tried to reject the homosexuality bill. So the only way we can become independent, so that now shows that we are not independent. Because if we were independent and we make our own decisions, then someone didn't come and say, now, no, you have to accept this.
In terms of economic...
we are not independent in any way. No way. Because even our social values are being infringed on just because of poverty. Yes. So now these are the benefits of integration. If we have come together and we are integrated, then we have our own money. We can cater for our own expenses, and we don't need to run to China or to USA for loans. Then now we can now say, we no longer need this, move away because we don't need you. But as long as we still need you, then we shall also forcefully want whatever thing you have to impose on us.
we are not independent in terms of social, economic levels of the region. Talk of the society of East Africa. Uganda has over 70 languages, and that means also in culture. And I look at it at a perspective of where society is more divided, then it also hinders the integration, because how can you be a uniting force when you are divided in languages? 70 more tribes, 70 over languages. In Kenya, very many also languages. Now, that is also a hindrance to me. What do you talk of that? The diversity that is in different
of course, the diversity in languages can also hinder integration. For example, now we have said we have close to 70 over in Uganda. Then now in the region we are coming to 200 or even 200 plus, and these people are speaking different languages. So as a medium of communication, at least that I can give a bravo to the East African community. It has tried to rectify on that by introducing Swahili language.
Swahili.
Yes, Swahili right away from primary. Now I hear there, and the East African community now was intending to make it compulsory, I think up to senior 4, which is good, and still it shouldn't just be put there that it is compulsory. Now, when actually this integration idea is taken through schools, people can now get interest in learning Swahili.
And actually, I've seen the NRM Secretariat of Uganda start up lectures on teaching Swahili.
Yes.
Maybe that teaches also to other political sides that even when you are divided politically, but you can sit down and zero down to the language. For example, I've seen the National Unit Platform open up a leadership school. Why don't you sit down and say that now for us we are zeroing down to the language, we are teaching Swahili? NRM, I think it has done that.
Yeah, I even had, they want to make it also a language to be used in parliament, which is good. But then my issue is it should be follow up to make actually these students love the language. Because you can put there, because now it is a subject.
Oh, it is just a subject.
Yes, and for a subject, you can just pass and cram 1, 2, 3 things and do an examination and pass it and drop it. Now, for example, I dropped Swahili in senior 2 because I hated it. I didn't even know that it would be.
You didn't even study it anywhere.
Because now, if they had actually made us see the contribution of Swahili language, that we shall come to a point where you need to interact with the people across the region in Swahili language, then maybe I would have loved it as a language now.
Actually, what really perturbs me on that is that in some schools they have these languages made a must for you to attend to for the 2 years. Because me, back then at St. Henry's College, Tovu, we were taught French as a must for 2 years. Now, had it been Swahili by then, it would be of use. Yes. But then you teaching French, which later even is dropped down, and it doesn't even help.
Yes, Swahili should be made compulsory, but also these students should be engaged to love the language, to learn it actually as a medium of communication, not actually a platform to pass exams and just to drop it. Because for passing exams, we passed some subjects that we don't have a clue on. But then if they make them realize the contribution of actually the language, that in the near future, you will need to go to Kenya and you will meet someone who doesn't know English. Rwanda English is a problem. They speak French and then their national language. So when they are also introduced to Swahili, at least you will know that if I'm meeting someone who doesn't understand English, then we can communicate to Swahili. So learning it as a medium of communication, not actually as a subject. A follow-up should be made to actually show them that without a common medium of communication, then integration it will still be a problem to integration. Then another problem of integration that actually we have in East African community, we have the overlapping membership in these organizations, because we have a number of community organizations. We have the SADC, this South African Development Company. We have now the East African Community. Like you see, so we have overlapping membership. You find a country like Uganda subscribes to the EAC and again subscribes to SADC. SADC has its own principles, it has its own mission and visions. Then now you are also coming together. So that one also makes it difficult for the East African community. So as long as we want to foster integration, we should do one thing at a go. If you are a member of East African community, then subscribe to the East African community to avoid that overlapping membership. Yes.
His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has been termed as a grandfather for the youth in Uganda, and more so I've heard also where he is now the father of the region, and that is East Africa. Has he been given the neutral sovereignty of the region?
Of course, I think why they call him the father of the region is literally because, first of all, is the oldest amongst the presidents, and then he has been there for a lot of time. You can imagine someone who came in 86. All these presidents actually they have come up only looking up to who? To Museveni. Find some presidents were in high school when Museveni was already a president. So they have grown up to become presidents when he's actually president. So I think it is just out of respect for age and what. But then
and the good things maybe.
Yes, for the good things, yes. But then age does it actually shouldn't be an issue here, because I wouldn't be worried about the age or the number of years he has spent there. But then for us, we want to see the economy growing.
But then
because we have countries like Kenya where we got independence around the same year. You find this one is a year ahead, 2 years, literally in 1960s when most of the African countries got their independence. But then you find a country like Kenya having now their economy has developed like ×3 Uganda.
Now, so on that issue, how can now these countries in East Africa neutralize the leadership? How can they balance the neutralization of the leaders to see that at least we have one leader of the region? Because that's what integration calls for. Yes. Thereafter, when we are integrated, then now they get one leader. How can they balance that?
Yeah, of course, then we have to democratize the process. So it doesn't matter whether this is the father of the region. No, we are all presidents and we were elected into power. So we should all have the same bargaining power on the table. And we should, as we are putting measures, like I told you, maybe delayed integration here and there, to start supporting the lesser developed countries to also catch up. But then for the heads of state, as long as they are coming together, 8 of them, each one of them is representing his own country or our own country. So on the table, they should have the same bargaining power. I take you back to 77 when it collapsed because of Kenya asking for, because it saw maybe it was more powerful than the other states. So now it thought, no, why should I have the same bargaining power with Uganda whose economy is actually not at par? So that is why the East African community collapsed. So now, not to repeat the same old mistakes, then we should also learn from that, and we have the same bargaining power.
In your eyes, what is the future of integration? Where do you see its success?
Oh, the future of integration is...
Should we say like in Vision 2030, in Vision 2050?
Yeah, like we have discussed all through, as you can see the benefits of integration, and then now we can correlate it to the future of integration. We are seeing a more stabilized region, a more powerful region, economically, socially, and politically.
Wow.
And a more independent region. My whole problem zeros on independence. Being independent, not actually the denotation meaning of the word independence and being independent just for formality, but being independent, making our own decisions that actually favor us without being manipulated because of being maybe less powerful or or poor as far as the economy is concerned, being independent is between the lines of integration. Because if we are not integrated, if we are not independent, then integration becomes a problem, because we shall always have the third power coming in, and as long as they are still feeding us, then they will be controlling us. So integration, the whole issue of integration is removing that third hand in the region. So as long as we have cut off that hand and we can be independent, if Uganda has a problem, it runs to Kenya, or even to the bank of the region, and it gets a loan that it will account for, then of course now the region will not come to control us. There are sovereignty guidelines that will be there. So the whole thing is cutting off that hand and being independent. Then we are independent, we can come together, because we actually have the resources to be independent. We have the resources, we are getting oil here, but this oil without integration, then it will not help us, because this is where corruption comes in. You will hear, before it is being drilled, even to put on the world market, you will see people going to Rizera because of embezzling money. So all that now goes back to integration. If we have a common body, then we create organs that oversee these processes. You are mining oil, yes, it is yours, but then how are you doing it? How much money are you getting? As this one embezzled, then we take them to the court of East Africa, not to the ICC.
Well, I would love to have this discussion go even more further, but then as you see, time is not on our side. I will request Mr. Wilson to give in your last words for a few seconds, and then we call it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, talking about integration is always an interesting conversation, but then I will become more happier when actually through the East African community, because it is the body that connects the integration and across the region. All those ministries of East Africa across the country should come together and make sure that the youth are involved in decision making. When the youth are involved in decision making, they are brought to book and brought up to date about the process of integration and what can actually bring to the region. Then we can develop together. We can see a more stable region without civil wars, without overwhelming loans, without political instabilities. Then integration can be the future of the region.
Thank you so much. As Nelson Mandela once said, that the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. As Brian Ainaman, I have faith in this, so that tomorrow has come. We are no longer waiting for tomorrow, but we are living in the present, and we are the leaders of today. We are having this integration, and more discussions will be coming up in different episodes. We call for a great evening. We catch the same time with the same host the next time. Thank you so much. It's been Levia Nyanzo on the production and the other team. A great evening.